When's the last time you went to the bathroom without your phone? Think about that. Think how often we go to the bathroom when we're out at a restaurant or at home or whatever, or at work, and we grab our phone. What other object in our life do we have this relationship with? It's kind of crazy if you think about it. For most of modern human society, we haven't had an object like this that we just have to bring with us into the bathroom. But yet here we are. So if you have this relationship with your phone and it filters out outside of the bathroom into other areas of your life and you're looking to try to make a change, then I've got 3 mindsets, which I call the Mindset Trinity, that are absolutely essential to breaking this habit and other habits in your life. Before we begin, let's talk about what a mindset is. A mindset is just a set of beliefs that you have about the world, but you have to actually have them. You have to internalize them. So if what I say today doesn't quite resonate, keep thinking about it. Keep kind of examining the belief structure that I'm going to talk about and see if you can kind of get there before you really put them into practice. But I don't honestly think they'll be too hard for you to internalize. So let's start with the first one, and that's a growth mindset. And so a growth mindset is the opposite of a fixed mindset. And a lot of people have a fixed mindset about various things in their life, especially about their own identity. And a fixed mindset is just thinking that something is the way it is, and that's just the way it'll be. And so a lot of times, this is why I bristle at personality tests and things like that. Because you take a personality test and it says, you are this person, and here is what that person or that type of person, the type of behaviors it exhibits. And then you kind of go through your whole life saying, I'm this kind of person. That's just who it is. That's who I am. Well, I don't think that's the case because I've seen it firsthand. I've taken the same tests many years apart and found that it's different. Obviously, because I believe I've changed and I can change. And that's a growth mindset, thinking that something isn't fixed. And when you're thinking about yourself, you're thinking like, maybe that's who I am now, but I can grow, I can change. And that's critical because if you're trying to make a change in your life, like a habit change, like stopping to scroll on your phone, you could easily say, I'm addicted to my phone. And that is what it is. I'm just addicted. Or you could say, I'm really susceptible to scrolling on my phone, which kind of paints a different picture using different language, but it shows I can change. I can overcome this. I can grow. So having that growth mindset is the number one thing you need to start the journey. Just thinking like I can actually make a change. If you go into this with a fixed mindset and you tell yourself I'm never going to be able to do this, then you'll make that a reality. That's just going to follow from that kind of self-talk. And so that's the first one, growth mindset. You need to believe that you can change. Leave the fixed mindset behind the door, the fixed identity, and move forward with a growth mindset. The second thing you need is an experimental mindset. So when it comes to change is really difficult. Change isn't easy. And we're going to be with an experimental mindset, you basically have a hypothesis of what needs to change. And then you make an experiment to see how it works if you can make that change. But again, change is hard and it's just a hypothesis. We're just using the information we have in the moment. We get more information by experimenting. So if you try to, let's say, I'm only going to use my phone before 9 p.m. After 9 p.m., I'm not going to use my phone. I'm going to try that for a week. You find out if that works and what about that worked or not. And maybe one day worked, but another day it didn't. And then you kind of look at those 2 days and you say, well, what happened there? And then you create a new experiment and you gather more data. And you just keep doing that until you get the change that you want. This is really powerful because this is really the only way change can happen is we don't have enough data. If we had enough data, we wouldn't be in the scenario we're in. So our information and our behaviors and our situations that got us into a habit that we're trying to get out of aren't going to get us out. So we have to develop these tiny little habits, tiny experiments to get us out of it. And so you have to develop that mindset to all things in life, but especially when it comes to scrolling on your phone or any other habit change, is making some experiments and appreciating the results. Those experiments aren't going to always play out like you think, but you need to have grace with yourself and trust yourself that you'll try your hardest the next time when you make another experiment. And that's really the way to sustainable change in all forms. It's like, let's just make an experiment. Let's see how it goes. Let's try it. If you've been a part of any kind of change at work, I'm sure you heard someone in a room say, that's never going to work because XYZ. Well, that's not a good experimental mindset, because yeah, that person might be right, but the only way you're going to find out is if you tried. If you just let anybody raise a red flag about any change, you're never going to do anything. And that applies to yourself too. Don't let yourself throw up red flags. Oh, I'll never be able to stop scrolling after 9 p.m. because, well, let's try it. Let's see. Maybe you're right, but why? Let's find out why you're right, and then let's look at that thing. Maybe there's some specific event that happens after 9 p.m. that causes you to grab your phone. Maybe you always have to use the bathroom after 9 p.m. Well, then you have to create a new experiment for yourself and figure out, how do we break that? So how can we break whatever information we found that caused us to regress and the experiment not to be a success? And if you continue to do that, eventually you'll find a way through and find something that works for you. Because what works for someone else isn't going to be what works for you. You have a completely different lived experience, completely different situations around your life. So there's no one size fits all trick to making a habit change or stop scrolling on your phone. And the third mindset, the one that everybody misses, and they miss it because I created it, it's called the commitment mindset. And the commitment mindset is to approach these kind of things by thinking of the commitments that are at play. And the commitments that are at play are the ones that you have to yourself and then the system has as a whole. So if you think about scrolling, what's the commitment that the system has? Well, if you're on social media, take Instagram, for example. I don't know if you use Instagram, but open it up, try it, and you'll see after, 3 posts, it'll be an ad or a suggested post. And if you start to keep track, you start to realize that most of this is ads and suggested posts, because that's what Instagram, they want you to keep scrolling. That's one commitment they want to foist upon you. And they want to sell you stuff. They want to show you ads and sell you things. And that's pretty much applicable to almost all social media platforms, YouTube included. And so those are the commitments of the system. And what those do is create obligations. That's their vision. Their vision for you is that you buy something and you watch ads. And every time you continue to scroll is an obligation. And so to think in these terms helps you to get a way out. So there's one other type of commitment, which is called an intention. An intention is a commitment you have to yourself that serves your vision. So if you don't have a vision, you got to start there. You got to set up some goals in your life. And it can be as simple as, I want to stop scrolling on my phone. That's my only goal, okay? If that's your only goal, then you set a rule for yourself. You set a commitment for yourself that when I use these social media platforms, I'm only going to consume content related to my goal, related to my set of goals, my vision. So you can have multiple goals. I try to limit myself to 3 goals at a time. Otherwise, you're kind of diffusing. If you had 20 goals, then all of a sudden you can scroll forever, because every kind of piece of content you can kind of distort into this meets my vision. And so if you have 3 goals, then there's only 3 types of content you can consume. And there's some nuances to this, but when you're trying to make a big change, this can be a big rule, a big commitment you set for yourself that can get your way out. So just to recap, the 3 mindsets, the Mindset Trinity, is growth, experimental, and commitment. Growth being you recognize you can change. Experimental means in order to change, I need to make some experiments and see how they go. And commitment mindset helps you create those experiments. What commitments should I make? And what are the commitments of the system that I need to fight against when I'm making those rules? If this resonated with you, I'd ask you to subscribe. I think these mindsets have been transformational for myself and my own journey to stop scrolling. So I might do a deep dive into every one of these mindsets in future videos. So subscribe if you liked what you heard here. If you know anyone in your life that is dealing with scrolling on their phone and could use to know, you think could benefit from knowing about the Mindset Trinity, share this channel with them. I'm gonna have a ton of content posting 3 times a week, trying to help people minimize their phone use. And that's all for today. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Bye.